Hi, welcome to another video, and in this one I wanted to revisit WRC8 and take a look at the force feedback settings. Main reason for doing this was the Jon Armstrong video that then prompted me to play around with the Dirt Rally 2.0 force feedback. So I thought I'd do a similar thing for WRC8 because in the past I've never been 100% happy with the force feedback, and I thought, let's take a look at it again and see if I can improve this. So my general issues with the force feedback on WRC8 were, it can be a bit overly heavy to begin with, particularly as you apply more and more lock onto it. But the biggest issue was as you were attempting to counter steer and wind it back, it seemed like there was a lot of drag on there, which meant counter steering was far more difficult than it needed to be or should be. So I had a good play around, a long time messing around with these, and this is effectively what I came up with. So first thing I actually did was drop the overall force from 100 down to 75, which seems a bit odd. Most people would go to play around with the values below that and leave the overall force fairly high. But oddly, I found that it didn't quite have the same effect, and I don't know why, but I found that dropping the overall force down to 75 and then playing around with the lower value, the values below it, worked a lot better. So self-aligning torque, I left that at the 100% because with the drop in overall force, this actually removed a lot of that weird weight and helped quite considerably with this. Tyre load, I dropped that down very slightly to 90. And again, that helped just with that initial weight and the scaling of that, the amount that ramped up. The self-center was the main one here, and this was way too high. And dropping this down to 50 is what removed an awful lot of that drag from when you're attempting to counter steer and made a big difference. The recenter force is just used in menus and when you respawn, so that was fine at 100. So those kind of like the force feedback ones. But what I also found was there's an awful lot of seat of your pants type noise in WRC8, and that comes from the vibration settings. Now these can be quite useful, but in all honesty, if they're a bit OTT, they can overwhelm a lot of the other settings and your force feedback, and also worst case scenarios lead to some clipping as well. So this one I found leaving the overall vibration at 100 was absolutely fine. But in my view, all of these values needed to drop. So tyre slip I whacked down to 50, suspension down to 65, and that removed an awful lot of the noise from the SOP values. Ground surface down to 75, and then engine in collision, I dropped both of these down an awful lot. The collision comes into play quite a bit on WRC8 when you run slightly off track, and given the narrowness of some of the stages, and this really can throw you quite significantly. So I dropped that one quite a lot. It's a similar story with the engine. The feeling you get from gear shifts and changes of your gears was just absurdly hefty in it. So I dropped both of these, engine and collision, right the way down to 25, and that you can still feel them, but they don't dominate and wash everything else away. With the tyre slip, suspension and ground surfaces, these could afford to be higher just so that you didn't lose them completely and were actually much more subtle in their overall effect. What I found with these values was the basic end result was something that was just a lot easier to drive. It's a lighter feel, so it is similar to the feel I got out of the Rally 2.0 using Jon Armstrong's settings. But these work, to my view, well, and I found it a lot easier to counter steer and in particular catch slides in pretty much all of the vehicles and across all of the different surfaces that you encounter on WRC8. So give these a go if you've got a T300. If you don't, use these as a starting point. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you do give them a go, if you found this video useful, please do hit the like button, and if you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe away and hit the bell icon if you want to be notified when more videos go live. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. Bye.